Hello guys, welcome to the next session of developing e-commerce application from scratch using Angular and Spring Boot. Till now we have discussed on how we can set up our Angular backend and database as well, and we have done with the setting up of all the different things that we require to run the application. In this session we are going to see how we can set up the Angular material UI components inside our project, because over the email, over the comments, I was getting a lot of comments like by saying that can we use Angular material inside our project development. And previously I have used a bootstrap like in many of the different applications that we have seen previously. And now I decided, like, if people are asking for Angular material, so let's go for the Angular material itself. So throughout this series, for many different components, we are going to use a Angular material for our project. And if you see, like inside the Angular material components, so first of all let me just tell you, the website is material.angular.io. so if you just come to this URL, you will find this Angular material official website. Inside these components, if you go, then you will see lot of different components are there which we can use inside our project. And Angular material provides almost every single component that a typical e-commerce, a typical web application may require. So that's the reason, by considering the popularity, let's go with this Angular material itself. But we cannot use the Angular material directly. We have to follow some steps. First of all, we have to just configure Angular material inside our project, and then again we have to just use the Angular material components. So let's see how we can configure this Angular material. So let me just come to this home page. If you see, there is one link which is get started. So let me just click on these, and it is not a big deal to install the Angular material. We have to just run one single command and we are done with it. But again, there are some steps that we have to follow, so we have to discuss on those as well. So first of all, let me just copy this link to install the Angular material. And let me just this is not a link, this is basically a command. So we have to just copy this command, and then we have to just come to the VS Code. As of now, my application is in running state, and if you just go to the Google Chrome, and if you just hit the localhost 4200, you will see this login page. And again, if you just try to observe this navigation bar again, so all these things like navigation bar, these input fields, these buttons, all these things are coming from the bootstrap right now, but we are going to replace all these things with the Angular material. And again, we will use a bootstrap as well whenever required. So for example, column system, or maybe making the application responsive, in such a cases bootstrap is really very powerful. So we are going to use in bootstrap in those cases, but for the component we are going to use Angular material. So let me just come back to the VS Code, and first of all let me just stop the running instance of my application. And again, if you just want to stop the running instance, you can just use the Control C, it will stop your application, or else you can just directly delete the terminal by clicking on delete button itself. Now let me just paste the command that we just copied. So command is basically like ng add @angular/material, and let me just hit the enter. But now over here it is giving me the error like command not found ng. So this is a basically issue, because this is how like my machine is configured, like this is how the Angular CLI is configured on my machine. So that's the reason this command is not working. So if I just want to run the command, I just need to use npm run, and then I just need to paste the copied command. So for you it might run only with the ng add, so you can just paste it and you can just go ahead. But if it's not working, maybe for some of you, you have to just use npm run, like in a way like I'm using. And now let me just hit the enter. Now over here it will ask couple of questions, so we have to answer those couple of questions. But before that, make sure you are just connected to the internet, because it is going to pull all the required libraries, it is going to pull all the required themes from the internet. So make sure you are connected to the internet. Now it is asking us to choose a theme that we want to use for our project. So we have couple of different options, like we have indigo pink, then we have a deep purple, then we have pink blue, and then we have purple green. If you want to use a custom themes, then also we can use a custom themes, but I'm not going to talk about custom themes as of now. We will see it later, but as of now let's use some of the inbuilt themes. Now if you just want to see how the each and every theme will look like, then you can just again come back to your Angular material site, and on inside this site, on the right hand side section, we have this option of this theme. And then if you see, you can just choose any theme that you want, and you can see how the each and every theme will look like. So if you just select pink and blue, then you will see like pink and blue will look like this. If you just select purple and green, it will look like this. So whichever theme you like, you can just go ahead with that. But as of now, I'm just going to use indigo and pink. So I'm just going to use a normal typical theme that generally we use. So I'm just going to use that one. So we have to just come back to the VS Code, and with the help of these arrow keys, we can just choose which theme we want. So I'm just going to use indigo and pink. Let me hit the enter, and now it is asking me like, do you want to set up the global Angular material typography styles? So if you just want to yes, use yes, then you have to just use a Y, otherwise N. So we have to just use a Y again, and let me just, for the second option, let me just use a Y. And for the second option, it is asking us like set up browser animations for Angular material. So I'm just going to use these. So that's why I'm just using a Y. And now let me just hit the enter. And again, what it is going to do is it is going to update our package.json file. So package.json file is basically responsible to manage the different packages that we use throughout the application. So it is basically contains the library name and then its version. So similarly, it is going to add this Angular material library inside our package.json and its respected version as well. Now it's done, so we can just come to the package.json file. Let's see whether we have whether anything is added into the package.json. And if you just see, like some of the packages are added, like this CDK, then also material, and then some of the other like add and ng. So some of the packages which this command basically uses, or this what we say Angular material basically uses, all these things are basically installed inside this package.json. But we don't have to worry about this. This is all the things which are managed by the Angular itself. Now let me just close this package.json. The next thing that we have to do is we have to just use any component that we want. So let's try to use a app navigation bar. So as of now, we are just using this navigation bar provided by the Bootstrap. So let's try to replace this navigation bar with the Angular materials navigation bar, so that we can test whether our Angular material is configured or not inside our project. And also we can just replace and see how our navigation bar with the help of Angular material will look like. So for this, we have to just come to the Angular material site. If you just click on components, you will come to this page. On the left hand side, we have a lot of different components that are provided by the Angular material, and the option in which we are interested is basically a toolbar. So let me just select the toolbar. Now over here, if you see, like we have different tabs like overview, API and examples. First thing that we have to do, we have to just come to this API tab, and then we have to first of all import this like whichever component you are going to use, we have to import that component. So this is the only one, I mean this is the only one time step. Like if you are using the toolbar for the very first time, then we have to just import. From next time onwards, we don't need to use, I mean we don't need to import, but for the very first time inside a project, we have to import it. Now let me just copy this, and let me just come back to the VS Code, and let me just go inside my src app, and then we have one file which is app module ts. Let me just first of all import this inside a app module ts, and also we have to just import this mat toolbar module inside our imports array. So let me just copy this name, and if you just come below, you will see one array which is having name as imports. Then we have to just give a comma, and we have to just import at the end. And now let me just save this code. Now importing the app toolbar or mat toolbar is done. The next thing that we have to use it. So if you just come to the examples tab, then you will see different examples. So we have some basic toolbar and we have some multi row toolbar, like many different variations we have of this toolbar. And if you see, like we have one button which is having a text as view code. So if you just click on that view code, you will see that it is giving you some code, and it will give you the HTML code, TypeScript code and CSS code. Now make sure, if you are just copy pasting the code, make sure that you are using every single file. So you are using HTML, TS and CSS as well. If you missed anything, you will definitely end up with getting some errors, or maybe you will not be able to see the expected results on your UI. So make sure, if you are just copy pasting, you are copy pasting from all the files which are required. But I'm just not going to use a copy paste, because I know like how to use this toolbar. So let me just quickly tell you how we can use it. So let me just come to the VS Code again, and then let me just open the header component. So inside src app, we have one component which is header component, and let me just open the header.component.html file. Inside this header.component.html file, if you see, currently we are using one navigation bar, but this navigation bar is basically provided by Bootstrap. So we are just going to replace this with the Angular material. So first of all, we have to just type mat toolbar. So mat toolbar is basically a tag. So we have to just use it like a HTML tag, and we have to just give one property which is a color, and color that I'm going to use a primary color. So primary color is basically a kind of you can say that violet color. So it will come kind of blue shade of color, it will come as a primary, because inside the theme that we have used like indigo, so inside that the primary color is mentioned in that way. So that's the reason it will give you the color like a blue shade. And now let me just save this code, and now let me just come to the Google Chrome, and if you just see, let me just try to refresh this, but as of now my application is not running. So let me just first of all run my application. So let me just use npm run start, and let's see whether we are able to get anything on our UI or not. And now if you see, it is compiling many different things, many different components, because we have just installed the Angular material. So it is going to compile all of them as well. And now let me just come to the Google Chrome, and let me just try to refresh this page. And now if you see, we are able to get kind of a toolbar on our UI. But if you see, there is nothing on this toolbar, there is no any text, there is no any button. So we have to add the text and button as well. Now let me just come back to the VS Code, and let me just use one span tag. So let me just use a span. Inside my span, let me just use a text like e-commerce application like this. And now let me just save this code. Let's see whether we get this text or not. And yes, we are getting the text like e-commerce application. The next thing that we have to use is we have to use this login and logout button. So let me just use those button as well. And again, so using the button is also very simple. But the next thing that we have to do, if you want to use a Angular material button, then we have to import the Angular material button as well. Now let me just come to the Google Chrome, and let me just select the button from left hand side section. Again, if you see, there are a lot of different examples of button that we can use. So if you want, you can just explore. Again, if you just click on view code, you will see the code as well. But we have to just install these. So we have to just come to the API, and we have to just copy this import line. So let me just copy this import line. Let me just come back to my VS Code. Inside my VS Code, first of all, we have to just import the mat button module, and again we have to import this mat button module inside my imports array as well. The similarly we did for a mat toolbar. And now let me just save this app module ts file. Let me just come back to the HTML file like header component HTML file, and as of now we are getting error on the console. This is because whenever we import anything new inside app module ts, then we have to stop the current execution of our code or program, and then we have to restart the application. So that's the reason we are getting the exception on our terminal. But let's keep it as it is as of now, and let's try to add one button. So adding button is really very simple. We have to just use a button tag, and then we have to use a mat raised button like this. And now I am habitual of, like, I have used these Angular material couple of times, so that's the reason I remember all these things. If you are new to the Angular material, then you can just explore this over explore this file, and you can just, if you just go to the view code, then you will see the code as well, so you can just explore this code. So if you see here, here it is used like mat raised button, so I was pretty known about that, so that's the reason I just use this directly. And again, if you just want to specify the color, we have to specify the color. So for primary, it will give you like a blue kind of color, then for one it will give you like a red color. So these are the color combinations. And now let me just come back to the VS code, and then let me just use color is equals to primary like this. And again, we just need to give a text as well, so let me just give the text as login like this. And now let me just save this code, and let me just try to first of all stop my current application because we are getting the error, and let me just restart the application. So let me just type npm run start, and let's see what we get on our UI, whether we get any button or not, and let's see how it works basically. So over here, if you just go to the Google Chrome again, then I'm just using, or I'm just getting this login button. As of now, the color of my toolbar and button, they are both same, so that's the reason I'm not able to find much difference inside these. But in upcoming sessions, we will just try to focus on styles and color combinations as well, but as of now, let's keep it as it is. Similarly, we have to add a logout button as well. So let me just copy this button code, and now let me just paste these. For this logout, let me just use a color as worn, and then let me just change the text as logout like this. And now let me just save this. Let's see whether we are able to get any different on UI or not, and yes, we are able to see this difference. Now the only thing that we have left back is we have to take these two buttons on our right hand side. So similar to these green login button, we have to take these two buttons at the right hand side. So again, we have to just give some styles. So if you just go to the toolbar again, because I don't remember this style honestly, so I'm just trying to see whether I'm get any style or not. And if I just go to the examples, and if I just go to the basic toolbar, and if I just click on the view code, so if you see, they have applied one style which is called as an example spacer. So I'm just going to apply that same style. So let me just copy this line, or maybe we can just type it as well. So we have to just give a span, and then we have to just give a class. So let me just come to my HTML file, and then let me just use a span, and then we have to just use a class. So you can give any class name. So I will just give the class name as space dash buttons like this, space dash buttons. And now we have to just create this class inside our CSS file as well. So let me just save these, and let me just copy the class name. Let me just come to my header component CSS file, and now let me just use dot this class name, and then we have to specify the styles that we want to use. So I just want to use one style. So if you just go to the CSS, you will find the style. So we have to just use this style, which is a flex. So let me just copy this style, and let me just paste it, and now let me just save this code. Let's see how it looks on the UI. And now if you see, like our login and logout buttons are at the right places. Now the only thing that we have left back is we have to just give the on click action on this login and logout, and also we have to just give the ngIf as well, because a login and logout button both will not visible at same time. We have some conditions, and in those conditions itself it will be shown to the user. Now let me just come back to the VS code. Let me just go to the header component HTML. If you see, we have already used the ngIf, so we have to just copy the ngIf itself. So for the login button, so if you see, for the login button we have this particular ngIf. So let me just copy these ngIf and let me just put for login button like this. And for the logout button we have again similar ngIf. So if you see, for the logout button we have the similar ngIf. So let me just copy these and let me just paste it. And again, if you just don't want to copy paste, just you can just pause this video and you can just try to type this. It is pretty simple. And now let me just save this code. Let me just go back and let's see. Yeah, so now on the UI we are not able to see the logout button as of now. We are able to see only the login button. But if you just click on this, nothing is going to happen. So we have to add a router link as well. So let me just come back to the HTML file again, and then let me just first of all copy this router link, which is basically a /login path. And now let me just paste this router link for my login button like this. And for my logout we have one click, and then we have to call the logout button. So all this login, logout, everything is already configured, so don't need to worry about. We have already configured in our project, so that's the reason we can just use it directly. And now let me just paste this code, and now let me just save this code. Let me just come back to the Google Chrome. Let's see whether we are able to see any changes inside our code or not. But before that, let me just try to remove these bootstrap navigation bar, because I'm not be able to because I will not be able to identify whether my changes are reflected on my exact login button or not. So let me just come back to the VS Code and let me just try to comment out these particular lines. So what the lines you have to comment? You have to just comment the navigation tag from start to end. So make sure you are just commenting the right code, and you are just not commenting any code from your mat toolbar. And now let me just come to the Google Chrome again. Let me just click on login, and yeah, so as of now we are on login page itself. So let me just try to use admin123 and admin@pass. Now if you are wondering like how I'm just using, so if you are following my series from very beginning, then you will be able to, like, you are aware about like how I'm using this admin123 and admin@pass. But if you're not if you're not aware about like how I'm just using this username and password directly, then let me just tell you quickly. Inside my backend, if you just go to the src, then main, then java, and then com.youtube.ecommerce, and inside the service, so you will find one file which is a user service. Inside the user service I have configured some code, like whenever we will run our backend application, it will automatically create two different users. One will be our admin user and one will be our a normal user. So you can just check out the username and password over here. And again, make sure our backend application is running. So as of now my application is not running, so let me just run the application so that I can test my UI. And now let me just put admin123 and @pass. Let me click on login button, and now if you see, it is giving me the message like you are admin, and also my login button got invisible, and the logout button is not is now visible. So if I just click on logout again, logout button will be vanished, and it will show me login button again. If I just click on login again, it will show me the this login form. So every single theme like we have decided like inside our navigation bar is working perfectly fine. Previously we were having two different links like user dashboard, admin dashboard on our navigation bar, but as of now we are not going to think of that. Whenever required we will just add those links, but as of now our Angular material is successfully installed inside our project, and also we are able to replace our navigation bar with the Angular materials toolbar. So I hope you got an idea around this, like how we can install and use some of the components of Angular material. In the upcoming sessions we are going to use a lot of different things from this Angular material, and we are going to build entire very big application which is the e-commerce application. So I hope you will enjoy this session, and I'll see you in the next session.